For over a decade I pursued the prince consort. Yet I could never rival the lively, clever young girl in his heart. She brimmed with vitality, free-spirited and unrestrained, the most vibrant maiden in all Chang'an. But he forgot that I, too, was once Chang'an's most noble princess, the apple of my father and mother's eye. The Princess Xinyang, whom all subjects hailed with "Long live Princess Xinyang." Now he has formally taken that girl as his concubine. Yet I no longer wish to fight. Only that impatient game of replacing me strikes me as laughable. I am the princess of this Ejido. They truly think they are worthy of challenging me. Within the prince's mansion, everyone pretends to be busy. Suddenly, I feel utterly weary. My maid, Yuer, supports me. Princess, according to custom, the prince consort should come to the mansion to accompany you today. At the mention of prince consort, I frowned. Let him return when he will. Must this prince's residence grovel before a mere prince consort? Letting him push his luck. Lear hesitated. Princess, you used to. I scoffed coldly. Used to. The Princess Xinyang of old groveled before a mere scholar. Now he's climbed to become a powerful minister in court. All thanks to me. Yet behind my back, he discarded me like a worn-out shoe. If Father Emperor found out, what do you think would happen to him and his weak, helpless concubine? I addressed the bustling servants. Cease your preparations. Does my palace require his presence to shine? He is the prince consort. I am the princess. By custom, he is my subject and must pay his respects upon seeing me. What is all this fuss for? The head matron hesitated. Princess, did you not once hold the prince consort in the highest regard? I waved my hand dismissively. What's past is past. If he comes, he comes. If not, so be it. Enough of this nonsense. Mark my words. You are servants of the prince's residence. When you see that man, there's no need to grovel. I've grown utterly weary of him. No sooner had I spoken than Shinzijie arrived, bringing Li Nuanyuan with him. Li Nuanyuan looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears, but her features remained relaxed. She was merely sniffling softly. I couldn't help but retort. Much ado about nothing. Save your act. Shinzijie frowned. Xinyang, Nuanyuan is genuinely sorry. Why must you be so harsh? I sneered coldly. Cut the crap. By custom, both you and she should bow before me. If I ordered you to kneel for 3 days, you'd have no right to protest. Yet now you dare question me. Shinzijie, don't forget without me, would you have climbed so high? But I've grown tired of being your stepping stone. Go back where you came from. Li Nuanyuan, seeing this, hid behind Shinzijie and stammered softly. Sister, you don't dislike me, do you? If you do, they'll come to the gates of the prince's residence every day to beg your forgiveness until you're appeased. Zijie and I are truly meant for each other. If the princess won't give her blessing, they'll never set foot in this residence again. I couldn't help but laugh aloud. You're addicted to acting. You should go perform at Chang'an's most famous memorial archway instead of showing off here. Do you know why? Since ancient times, there have only been princess mansions, never prince consort mansions. Because the princess is the sovereign, and the prince consort is the servant. You've become the concubine of a servant that makes you the lowest of the low. As for your mutual affection, I understand it well. Birds of a feather flock together. After all, the bond between servants is bound to be especially deep. Now that I've said my piece, you two should hurry back. Tomorrow, they'll go to the palace and ask Father Emperor to issue a decree for our divorce. Shinzijie seemed taken aback by my words, his brow furrowing. Xinyang, what are you saying? As if afraid he hadn't heard me clearly, I raised my voice. I said divorce. This humiliation, I can never swallow it. The moment the words left my mouth, he closed in, seizing my hand and gazing down at me. Xinyang, stop this nonsense. Staring at the man before me, I suddenly found him utterly tedious. I met his gaze without flinching. then wrenched my hand free. Only after stepping far away did I speak. Qin Zijie, when I cherished you, you were my treasure. Now I've awakened to the truth. Marrying you is the one thing that truly disgraces the imperial family. Qin Zijie took Li Nuanyuan's hand, preparing to leave. But Li Nuanyuan knelt directly outside the prince's residence. Before long, a crowd gathered around the entrance. I couldn't stand her stinking habit. I ordered the steward to bring my imperial chair to the doorway, had someone fetch a large basin of ice, and instructed servants to fan me. Qin Zijie looked pained beside me. He declared before the crowd, "Qin Yang, Nwaner is delicate. To treat her this way in public is too much." Munching on icy grapes, I watched Qin Zijie squirm under the scorching sun. Finding it utterly laughable, I flicked a grape skin at his face before speaking slowly. She chose to kneel. If she wants all Chang'an to know I'm a jealous harlot, I'll grant her wish. Let her kneel. If kneeling makes her famous in Chang'an, you'll save yourself the trouble of hiding your mistress. I couldn't be bothered to expose her petty schemes. If you dare question me, then kneel beside her. Look at yourself. What kind of person are you to question me? Qin Zijie's face flushed crimson as he pulled Li Nuanyuan away. I clapped my hands and addressed the crowd gathered on the street. Tomorrow, I shall petition His Majesty for a divorce decree. Once the imperial edict is issued tomorrow, everyone is welcome to come to the prince's residence for a cup of wine. I turned and walked back to the mansion, feeling utterly satisfied. No sooner had I returned to my bedroom than the maid Lear hesitantly spoke up. "Princess, are you truly determined to seek a divorce?" Fanning myself with a folding fan, I replied to Lear. "Now that they've slapped me across the face, am I supposed to offer the other cheek and let them strike again?" I lay by the window, drew down the bamboo blinds, dismissed everyone, and finally felt a wave of relief wash over me. The matrons of the mansion had followed me from the palace. Many had watched me grow up. In the past, they'd often been frustrated by my shortcomings. But today, seeing me stand my ground so fiercely, I could sense their spines straightening with pride. Sun, the matron, came to my bedchamber and said, "Princess, since you've vented your anger today, why not reclaim all the resentment you've bottled up these years? That scoundrel of a prince consort keeps his mistress in a country estate on the outskirts of the city, one that belongs to our princess. Qin Zijie keeps women, and he dares to keep them in an estate belonging to our princess household. Isn't this openly slapping our princess household in the face?" I smiled faintly. "It's merely an estate outside the city. Everything within it was mine to begin with. Take some people and drive that pair of dogs out of the estate." Sun Granny took my token and left. I waited in the mansion for her report. By evening, seeing Sun Granny's flushed, satisfied face, I knew Qin Zijie and Li Nuanyuan wouldn't get off lightly. Without me, he'd be reduced to a beggar on the streets. How could he dare challenge me then? I feasted heartily in the mansion, but Qin Zijie returned with Li Nuanyuan. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands still clutching hers tightly. His voice was slightly hoarse. "Qin Yang, must you exterminate us completely? With your vast holdings and your status as princess, can you not tolerate Nuanyuan? That estate is insignificant to you." I finished the last piece of meat. Then, to everyone's surprise, I slammed my chopsticks hard against his face. "What are you? How dare you repeatedly utter the prince's name? There's not a shred of affection left between us now. I'd rather let a dog live in the prince's estate than let you keep testing my limits." He still held his head high, as if refusing to believe I was no longer the person he once knew. In his eyes, I could even read his contempt. He still thought I was just throwing a jealous tantrum, and that soon enough, I'd be back to being the Gao Xingyang who fawned over him. I gripped his chin, my long nails leaving shallow marks on his skin. My eyes locked with his for a long moment before he finally looked away. I stared at him with utter contempt, then rose. "Qin Zijie, without me, you are nothing. Tonight, they'll show you one last shred of mercy. You and your woman may stay in the princess mansion's woodshed. Tomorrow, When you enter the palace, the imperial edict will be issued. After that, we will have no connection whatsoever." His expression was complex, yet he remained silent. The next morning, after Father Emperor dismissed court, I went to the imperial study. Unexpectedly, I encountered an old acquaintance. Duan Jixiao, the youngest son of the Duke of Jinghua, was also the protector general guarding the southern frontier. He gazed at me, though a decade had passed. He looked even more dashing in his armor. Bowing with clasped hands, he said, "Your Highness, it has been many years. You remain as lovely as ever." I smiled. "Rise, please." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shinzijie standing by another palace gate. Duan Jixiao seemed to catch my glance. He shrugged. "It seems the princess married the wrong man back then." I shrugged back, unable to resist teasing him. "Indeed, I was blind. Had I met you sooner, perhaps I wouldn't have fallen for some penniless scholar." Which noble lady in the capital didn't secretly harbor feelings for General Duan? I expected him to blush shyly like he did when we were children. Instead, he stepped closer, so near I felt flustered. I instinctively took a step back. Nearly stumbling, his large hand swept around my waist, pulling me back. His eyes never left mine, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. "I told you the princess hasn't changed a bit." The words had barely left his mouth when I saw Shinzijie emerge from the side gate. His gaze turned icy upon seeing me and Duan Jixiao so close, his tone sharpening with biting sarcasm, as if had finally caught me in the act. "Shinzijie, Qinyang, you haven't even formally divorced me yet, and you can't resist seeking comfort elsewhere." Duan Jixiao, a man hardened by years of frontier life and sandstorms, wasn't one for cutting remarks. I pulled him behind me and spoke softly. "Yes. Even if I couldn't resist seeking someone else. What of it? But Lord Shen, while we were still husband and wife, you had someone settled in my estate. Duan Jixiao and I were merely catching up in broad daylight. Yet you have the nerve to say such things." Duan Jixiao chuckled softly. Shinzijie frowned deeply but remained silent. Entering the imperial study first. Inside the imperial study, Father sat upon his high throne. Before I could speak, he placed an imperial edict in my hands. "The commotion caused by your affair with Minister Shen yesterday has rocked the entire city. Since you wish to divorce, I grant you this edict. As for Minister Shen, I shall bestow a residence within the capital upon him. Let it serve as his estate. After all, his concubine's belly will soon swell." Shinzijie knelt on the floor, his body trembling uncontrollably. Though sharp-tongued toward me, before the emperor he appeared as fragile as an ant, easily crushed at any moment. He still spoke up. "Your Majesty, how did you know Nwaner is with child?" Contempt flickered in the emperor's eyes, yet his tone remained uncharacteristically flat. "If you don't want others to know, don't do it. Qinyang is my daughter. Only I have the right to discipline her, whether with blows or scolding. Years ago, I intended to exile you to Cheongzhou long ago. Had Qinyang not knelt before the palace gates for 3 days, do you think you'd still hold your high position?" Shinzijie's lips trembled. "Those 3 days I vanished were spent kneeling at the palace gates for me." I shook my head at my father, signaling him to stop. I knelt to thank him for the imperial decree, then rose and left. Duan Jixiao waited at the door. He smiled and said, "Now the princess is free." I held up the decree. "Yes, free at last. Tonight I host a banquet at the prince's residence. Young General Duan is welcome to join us for a cup of wine." He gave a slight nod before entering the imperial study. As he passed Shinzijie, his shoulder collided heavily with the man. I knew he was merely venting my frustration for me. Yet Shinzijie now looked pale and gaunt, his once sharp tongue unable to utter any boastful words. Without the title of Prince Consort of Xinyang, he seemed stripped of his very core of arrogance. I had no intention of engaging with him, yet he followed me all the way to the palace gates before calling out, Those 3 days you vanished, was it for me? But everyone says those 3 days. I didn't turn back, only sneered coldly. Why bring up the past? Qin Zijie. The freedom you once longed for, I've given it to you now. Outside the princess residence, lanterns and decorations had long been hung. Grandma's son greeted me at the gate. Having specially set up a brazier to ward off misfortune, she insisted it would purge all ill omens, ensuring they never clung to me again. Many came to the princess residence seeking a cup of wine. I drank myself into a stupor, eventually perching atop the great willow tree in the courtyard. Then I heard Duan Juxio's laughter. The princess invited me to drink. Yet she's already drunk herself. No sooner had he spoken than he leapt up and sat beside me, holding a flask of osmanthus wine. Back in the day, I recall you loved osmanthus wine most. I took it and gulped down several mouthfuls. He showed no disdain, finishing the rest in one go. Duan Jiao, I thought you wouldn't come back. He gazed into my eyes, gently patting my shoulder. Qing Yang, I always believed that since we grew up together, our hearts would always understand each other. Later, I couldn't recall how I drifted off into a hazy sleep. I only remembered lying in his embrace, listening to him talk on and on for a long time. It wasn't until the next day, when the sun was high in the sky, that Grandma's son smiled and told me. Yesterday, many saw young General Duan escort you home. You were clinging to him, refusing to let go. I tapped my forehead, yet couldn't recall a single word spoken to him last night. All I remembered was how exquisite that jar of osmanthus wine tasted. Princess Shenjiang's mansion had hosted many guests yesterday. The incident between Duan Jixiao and me must have already spread. As I was dressing, Qin Zijie stood at the door with his servant. His face darkened. Gao Xingyang, what exactly is going on between you and Duan Jixiao? How is it that all of Chanlan now says you intend to choose him as your prince consort? I pinned the phoenix-adorned gold hairpin into my bun, then reapplied my eyebrow powder before the mirror before replying. Though Duan Jixiao and I haven't seen each other in years, we did grow up together. Wouldn't it be fitting for him to become my new prince consort? He was speechless, his fingers curling tightly before he slammed his fist into the doorframe. His restraint strained. Qin Yang, he's no saint. Don't come to regret this. Besides, you're merely my discarded wifey, a woman I cast aside. How could a general commanding the northern frontier possibly pick up the shoes I discarded? Qin Yang, stop dreaming. If you weren't a princess, everyone in this world would despise you. Loathe Youthie treat you 3 times worse than I ever did. You're only riding on the prince's coattails. The servant behind him shot me a sudden, sharp glance, then tugged furtively at his sleeve. But Qin Yang seemed oblivious, his eyes blazing with fury as if he wished to incinerate me whole. I had no desire to spar with him now. A faint smile touched my lips. Qin Zijie. Yes. I used my status as the emperor's daughter to grant your entire Shen family wealth and prestige, securing their place in Chang'an. I paved your path to an unimpeded career in the former court. Yet you refuse to acknowledge any of this. You hate my status. Yet your entire family relies on it. Pack your things and leave immediately. To look at you one more time makes me feel filthy. No sooner had I finished speaking than Duan Jixiao arrived with servants bearing 2 casks of premium osmanthus wine. His tone was ostentatious. Once inside the room, he stood beside me, his hand resting casually on my shoulder as he addressed Qin Zijie. Qin Yang has never been some discarded shoe no one wants. She is the most splendid lotus in the world, the very object of my heart's desire. A pearl shrouded in dust naturally needs someone who understands her to wipe away the grime. As for Minister Shin, he is blind to her worth, unable to recognize a treasure when he sees one. Qin Zijie swept his sleeve and left. My gaze fell on Duan Juxio's hand. Only then did he release my shoulder, smiling at me. That man's just sharp-tongued and quick-witted. I truly don't know what you ever saw in him. I shrugged, offering no reply. Instead, Grandma's son spoke up. General, there's no need to dwell on the past. I imagine the Shin family will never have the face to set foot in the prince's residence again. I instructed the palace servant to put away the osmanthus wine before turning to Duan Xiao again. I'm no match for alcohol. If I said anything improper yesterday, General, please don't take it to heart. Duan Xiao drew a brocade box from his robe. Inside lay a lotus flower necklace carved from snow-white jade, adorned with gold thread embroidery. His eyes twinkled with amusement. This gift should have been yours 10 years ago, when you married him back then. It was never given. Presenting it now. I hope it's not too late. I ordered someone to accept it before he continued. The autumn hunt approaches in a few days. His Majesty will personally attend the hunting grounds. Will you be going? Before I could answer, he added, besides gold, silver, and treasures. The good fortune of the autumn hunt also allows one to ask His Majesty for a favor, or perhaps it should be called a wish. I paused, seeing the deep affection gathering in his eyes, yet dared not dwell on it. Shaking my head, I asked, "What is the general's wish?" He smiled faintly. "My wishes are many, but one remains forever unfulfilled. There is a maiden I cherish in my heart, yet I refuse to force her obedience through His Majesty's decree." I cleared my throat sharply. He paused, his eyes deepening with hidden emotion. Shen Yang. We shall meet again when the time comes. These days, I haven't stepped beyond my inner courtyard, yet my heart feels an unprecedented lightness. But that day, Li Nuanu suddenly arrived at my door. I didn't let the servants stop her, sparing her out of consideration for the child she carried, lest she bring me further trouble. This time, she obediently curtsied, her tone subdued. "Princess, have you heard? Zijia has been demoted repeatedly in the court." I waved my feather fan dismissively, snorting. His demotion's what concern is that of mine? She knelt with a thud. "Whether you hate me or resent me, I admit I've brought shame upon you. But Zijia has toiled over his studies for over a decade. He's done nothing wrong. If he finds no place left in the court, his talent and pride will be utterly destroyed. You were his wife for 10 years. Can you truly bear to watch him sink deeper and deeper into ruin?" I chuckled softly. "Madam Shin, I, Gao Xingyang, am not one to stoop to every piece of trash that crosses my path. Nor am I the sort to aid anyone merely because they come begging. Do you recall, back when Shin Zijie took you horseback riding beyond the frontier? I knelt in the palace for 3 days and nights just to preserve his pitiful official post. Alas, he was off enjoying himself with you out there. And didn't you tell him yourself that you heard Princess Xinyang knelt in the palace just to beg for a divorce?" Her almond-shaped eyes darted back and forth before she slumped, her voice faint. "You actually know that I lied to him back then?" No sooner had the words left her lips than Shinzijie appeared outside the door. His mouth fell open, yet in the end, no sound came out. He helped Li Nuanyuan to her feet, turned, and left. He glanced back at me once more, saying nothing, but I could see his body trembling. Li Nuanyuan, however, continued to shout, "Princess, if you are willing, I can return the title of Lady Shin to you." Just then, Duan Zhixiao entered with his men. He spoke with a playful tone. Well, what's the drama today? His Majesty specifically ordered me to escort you to the hunting grounds beyond the frontier. I heard Minister Shin would be accompanying you, but now that Lady Shin is incapacitated, is she to come along too? Minister Shin should hurry back to the mansion. If the carriage sent by His Majesty waits too long, he'll likely face another scolding. Duan Zhixiao helped me into the carriage. As I gazed out the window at Chang'an City, he looked at me. "Xing Yang, Shin Zijia has been demoted again. Are you aware?" I nodded. He continued. "Do you know that I played a part in stirring the pot?" I smiled. "No one else knows. But you couldn't possibly be unaware. I've managed the imperial archives for Father Emperor for years. I know everything that happens in the court. If I wanted to, I could even tell you how many maidservants you have at home." He laughed heartily. "Shin Yang, I admire your candor. So tell Mado you still harbor feelings for Shinzijie. I met his gaze and smiled softly. Young General Duan, there are questions you insist on having answers to. If I told you no, would you believe me? He seized my hand. I would. The carriage swayed as it rolled along. The capital wasn't far from the frontier. And within days, we arrived. Many ministers accompanied us, Father Emperor, Mother Empress, and a host of consorts, having not left the palace for so long. Everything seemed fresh and new to them. Duan Juxiao accompanied me daily, wary that Shinzijie and Li Nuanyuan might cause trouble again. Soon after, the Mongolian king arrived at the hunting grounds with his ministers. That day, the Mongolian king specifically proposed that his princess form a marriage alliance with our dynasty, ensuring lasting peace for generations. My father had few sons, only several younger brothers, none yet of marriageable age. The Mongolian king had set his sights on Duan Jiushao, the youngest son of the Duke of Jingua, who also held military merits. For the Duan family, marrying a Mongolian woman would bring nothing but harm. My gaze fell upon my father, seated upon the high throne. He merely smiled. Jiushao. I intend for him to be with my daughter. I hope the Mongolian king won't try to steal her away. The Mongolian king chuckled, while the Mongolian princess beside him spoke up cheerfully. Father said I should find someone I like. With so many fine young men gathered on the grasslands these past days, I shall choose one myself. Her gaze swept over the ministers accompanying the imperial entourage in the capital. My father stepped in to smooth things over. Since Princess Lilua wishes it, she may indeed choose one she likes. Though I must say, the scholars of our capital cannot compare to the fine young men of your grasslands. Princess Lilua smiled sweetly. After the meal, my father summoned me. Qin Yang, you've presided over the Qingshan Pavilion for many years. You understand the workings of the court. Whatever happens, we cannot allow that Mongolian princess to truly form a marriage alliance with a high-ranking minister of our dynasty. Otherwise, it would only bolster Mongolian power. I nodded, a pang of sorrow in my heart. Father Emperor raised his eyes to meet mine. Jiushao is a worthy young man to entrust with such a bond, the youngest son of the Duke of the State, and a great general. Qin Yang, I only hope you can discern your own heart and avoid sinking deeper into this quagmire. As I stepped out of Father Emperor's tent, I saw Princess Lilua. Her gaze upon me held a peculiarity, tinged with what seemed like hostility. When we reached a secluded spot, she spoke bluntly. Princess Xingyang, I hear you were once wed to Lord Shin, but now you are divorced. If I were to marry Lord Shin, would you stand in my way? I shrugged. Your Highness should simply choose whoever you desire. Her brows finally relaxed. Princess Xingyang, you have no objection. I shook my head. She smiled at me, her gaze as cool as an autumn breeze, sending a chill through me. Your Highness shows none of the haughtiness one might expect. But I am different from you. When I set my sights on something, I clamp down like a starving wolf, never letting go, no matter what. Duan Jiushao approached from behind, pulling me behind him. His tone was light. I hadn't realized the Mongols had grown so powerful. Princess Li Luo seems to have forgotten her place before Princess Xingyang. Her anger flared, but upon spotting Shinzijie nearby, she instantly reined in her temper and scampered over to him. Yet something felt off to me if this were their first meeting. Why did Li Luo and Shinzijie seem so intimately familiar? Duan Jiuxiao, noticing my troubled expression, understood my thoughts. He silently traced the character for peace in my palm. Returning to the tent, an uninvited guest awaited. Meli Nuanyuan had been waiting inside for quite some time. Her eyes appeared swollen and reddened, as if she had been crying. Perhaps it was the impending motherhood, for her hands kept unconsciously caressing her belly, gently patting it, whether to comfort herself or the child within. I couldn't tell. I knew what she wanted to ask and what she was scheming. Before she could speak, I said, I know nothing about the Mongolian princess and Shinzijie. I have no connection whatsoever to him. so I won't step into cover for you. Coming to me isn't the wisest move. She gritted her teeth. Why must princesses like you always compete with me? I shrugged. He's already yours. Mrs. Shin. Maids escorted her out of the tent. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I donned my armor and gathered the men of the Qingjian Pavilion at West Mountain. The world only knows Princess Xinyang as a reckless fool, madly infatuated with a talented youth and utterly disregarding her royal dignity. Few realize that I, Gao Xingyang, am the head of the Linjian Pavilion, master of intelligence, privy to every secret of the imperial court. Gentlemen, I declared, the Mongols now seek to probe our defenses, attempting to co-opt our ministers. The hour has come for each of you to fulfill your duty. Understood. Wherever the Qilin Pavilion exists, bloodshed and smoke of battle follow. This current situation has me itching for action. I can already smell the scent of slaughter in the air. Only I am worthy to serve as my father's right-hand man, not those weak and incompetent younger brothers. All these years, I have crafted myself into a devoted princess, laying my entire heart at that man's feet. Such a performance plays out daily in Chang'an. The more the play is performed, the more people become immersed in it. Dust kicked up by horse hooves swirled in the wind, as the sun dipped below the horizon. The crimson feather on my hat fluttered in the breeze. My true battlefield was only just beginning. This time, I would bind my own destiny inextricably to that dragon throne. What I aspire to be is the sovereign enthroned on high, not the pampered, silk-clad, soft-spoken Gao Xinyang of the Prince's Palace. Upon returning to my father's camp, he seemed unsurprised to find me clad in military garb. Stroking his beard, his eyes held a vague, ambiguous smile. Xinyang, entering your father's tent still in uniform seems rather inappropriate. I bowed my hands. Your Majesty, I apologize for my rashness. Yet perhaps the news I bring may atone for my offense. No sooner had I spoken than Duan Juxiao, likewise clad in military attire, entered to pay his respects. The white feather on his cap swayed gently. His starry eyes concealed something unreadable, never resting on me for even a moment. After his bow, his words paused briefly. Father glanced at me absently before speaking. Minister Duan, speak plainly. Xinyang is no stranger here. Only then did Duan Juxiao speak. Your Majesty, though the Mongols have brought few personal guards this time, this humble minister has already sent spies to investigate. The vast majority of tribes on the grasslands have secretly switched allegiance, awaiting only the Mongol prince's command. Though we came here to hunt beyond the frontier, we may well have long been the prey of others. Father remained silent, his gaze fixed intently on Duan Juxiao's eyes. My minister, what do you estimate our chances of victory this time? Duan Juxiao smiled lightly. Your Majesty is the true sovereign of the 9 heavens. Should any other seek to ascend this throne, they likely lack the destiny for it. This humble servant shall protect your Majesty and ensure your safety. Outside the tent, I stood shoulder to shoulder with him, his eyes fixed on the armor I wore, his hands gently tracing the contours of my brow and eyes. He chuckled softly. The emperor is the emperor because he trusts no one but himself. Xinyang, I know what you're thinking. But can you truly sever all emotion and love like a true sovereign? My fingers curled around his neck. My little finger teased the curve of his Adam's apple as I giggled. You seem to read my heart. Then guess what I want to do right now. His ears flushed an unnatural red. He cleared his throat. Your Highness, you naturally wish to earn merit. If this humble servant were to offer assistance to your Highness, would the princess be willing to allow me to? Seeing his awkwardness, I couldn't resist teasing him further. Allow you to do what? Become my devoted subject. His face twisted with discomfort, and he turned away, losing all the composure had shown moments earlier when facing my father in the tent. I couldn't help but laugh aloud. Seeing the soldiers bustling before us, he hurried over, avoiding my gaze. I lowered my eyes, and only leer. My maiden-arms dressed similarly in military attire, spoke slowly. Princess, we have lain dormant for many years. Young General Duan, Qi. I waved my hand dismissively. Since ancient times, loyal ministers and treacherous courtiers have been opposites. What I desire is precisely what he guards so fiercely. But I am neither a loyal minister nor a treacherous courtier. What I aspire to be is the supreme female sovereign. Duan Juxio's troops had just encircled the Mongol cavalry complete. Yet, my father and I must feign ignorance of this development, continuing to perform this grand charade alongside the Mongol prince and princess until the final curtain falls. Li Nuanu sat pale and dazed at the banquet table. Her slightly rounded belly, once her weapon of pride, now seemed like a joke amidst the Mongol prince's laughter and merriment. If Shinzijie wished, he could conceive a new life with a woman of higher nobility, a truth Li Nuanu had perhaps only recently grasped. Shinzijie's gaze drifted wherever Princess Lilua went. None of the assembled were fools. The ministers and nobles who accompanied the emperor on this hunting expedition beyond the frontier were, for the most part, shrewd individuals. How could they fail to see the intricate web of intrigue unfolding? Seated beside my father, I observed this spectacle that had little to do with me. Princess Lilua, however, seemed determined not to let me off the hook. Smiling before the assembled guests, she asked me, "These past days, everyone can see how fond I am of Brother Zijie. Sister Xingyang, if you truly don't mind, I'd like you to bear witness for me. Could you also plead with His Majesty to grant me marriage to Brother Zijie?" The Mongolian prince scolded her for lacking propriety, though his eyes still sparkled with amusement. I rose and stepped before her, declaring before the assembly, "I have no desire to meddle in others' marriages. Why not ask Minister Shen, or rather, Lord Solantu, if he is willing to take you as his bride?" The moment my words fell, the Mongolian prince's expression darkened instantly. Princess Lilua and Shinzijie were equally stunned. None seemed to recognize the name Soroentu. I ordered servants to produce a thick stack of evidence documenting Shinzijie's correspondence with the Mongols, then flung it into Princess Liluo's face. "Your Highness, I've shown considerable restraint these years, playing along with countless charades. Now that Princess Lilua has placed this opportunity squarely in my hands, I shall make full use of it. To do otherwise would be to squander her gracious intentions. Shinzijie is Sorentu, the illegitimate son of the Arya tribe under Mongol rule. That man who once dazzled the capital with his brilliance was nothing more than a spy sent by the Mongols to Chang'an." Lilua seized the moment, drawing a dagger to silence me, but she never knew, nor did Shinzijie ever tell her, that I trained in martial arts from childhood under imperial masters. My first lesson was swiftness and precision. One strike, one kill. Her dagger slipped from her grasp, and in the blink of an eye, it pierced her chest. Chaos erupted at the banquet as Li Luo's blood trickled down. The entire gathering had long been under my control, and the Mongolian bodyguards had been replaced by my agents. I pressed the blade against the Mongolian prince's throat. His eyes blazed crimson. "You're merely a woman. You couldn't possibly be this cunning. You'll get your comeuppance." Before he could finish, he breathed his last. Shinzijie sat frozen, his gaze dull and vacant, kneeling before Princess Lilua. A single tear fell onto her cheek. I had no intention of sparing him, yet he lifted his head to look at me, his speech slurred with fear. "You knew all along, didn't you? Then why did you pretend to love me for nearly a decade? Why let the entire capital laugh at you?" I gave a cold, derisive laugh. "Don't you scholars always say, small impatience ruins great plans?" I crouched down to meet his gaze, gently cupping his cheeks with both hands. "Shinzijie, no. Sorentu, all these years you've been in Chang'an, you probably never realized. The Dragon Pavilion, that place that strikes fear into every courtier's heart, is under my command. And from the very first day you arrived in Chang'an, I knew your true identity. You've been pretending all these years, perhaps you've even convinced yourself by now." He stared at me blankly. "Then, will you kill me?" The Mongol troops have already surrounded this place. Perhaps they'll be here soon. You killed their princess and prince, aren't you afraid? I couldn't help but laugh aloud. Do you truly believe? In these times, I would spare them. Duan Zhuxiao has sealed this place tight as a drum. Those Mongol guards are likely already dead. Their blood spilled on the floor. Or are you still dreaming of some impossible fantasy? He fell silent. I ordered my men to seize him. Only then did he begin to scream. Why? Why won't you kill me? I pointed at Li Nuanyuan and smiled. The whole world knows Shen Zijian never loved the princess. Only that Li Nuanyuan. Naturally, they'll grant your wish and let you stay together forever. Back then, she constantly disrespected me, but I chose to laugh it off. That doesn't mean I, Gao Xingyang, tolerate being bullied. You two will spend the rest of your lives locked up together. I entered my father's tent, blade in hand. He stroked his beard and smiled. Xingyang, you truly are my daughter. I placed the sword at his feet and spoke. Father, He waved me off, signaling his chief eunuch to present 2 imperial edicts. I unrolled Oni decree granting me marriage to Duan Zhuxiao. The other proclaimed my succession as crown princess. I was taken aback. Father Emperor continued. I know what you're thinking. Of all my children, you resemble me most. Now that the Mongol threat is gradually being resolved, your mother and I wish to live out our days in peace. I trust you with the affairs of state. Besides, Jiao Shao is a dependable lad. Father Emperor, actually, you want to seize power, don't you? I nodded. He smiled and ruffled my hair. Xingyang, you share my bloodline. Your grandfather once spoke to me in exactly the same way. As the guards busied themselves clearing up the remaining Mongol affairs, Duan Zhuxiao approached me. Blood stood on his face, and the white feather atop his head seemed to beckon to me. Suddenly, I recalled our youth. I never cared for the city's most celebrated scholar. What I always loved was that carefree, unrestrained youth on the training grounds. Before entrusting me with the Qilin Pavilion, Father asked, will you play this game of chess with me? I played that game for 10 years, convinced that youth would never be mine. Fortunately, heaven smiled upon us, and everything fell perfectly into place. Xingyang, will you marry me? I shook my head. It should be me asking you. Will you come with me to the Eastern Palace and be the husband of the Empress? I will. I've waited 10 years. Extra Chapter 1. Gao Shenjiang's extra chapter in my youth. My mother, the Empress Dowager, often lamented that she had failed to bear my father, the Emperor, a legitimate eldest son. Yet she never treated me harshly. My great-grandfather, the Emperor, was still alive then. He would sit in the cool pavilion, reading books and playing chess while fanning himself with a palm leaf fan. I disliked staying in my mother's palace, seeing her face clouded with worry day after day. So I would always go to seek my great-grandfather. Grandfather praised my wit and intelligence. Yet whenever ordinary tutors at the Imperial Academy complimented a prince's cleverness, they would invariably add, if only she were a prince, she could truly ease His Majesty's burdens. I always scoffed at such remarks. Couldn't I become a female ruler? Grandfather seemed to see through my thoughts. One autumn afternoon, he summoned me. He rubbed my cheek. Xingyang, you are the Emperor's daughter. Sons and daughters are no different, both are blood of the Gao family. I know your ambitions are lofty, but to become the sovereign of the 9-5, one must pass countless trials. The 9-5 does not extinguish emotion or love, but learns to choose what to hold and what to let go. That dusk, my grandfather passed away. Father summoned me and entrusted me with the Dragon Pavilion, holding the Imperial Edict. My hands trembled. I knew its secrets well. It was the Emperor's spy agency. Standing above the 3 departments of the court, Father Emperor said, the Mongols have selected a brilliant scholar, intending for him to win the top rank in the imperial examinations. They seek to disrupt our court and probe its vulnerabilities. Xingyang, How do you advise we proceed? I looked up and met Father Emperor's gaze directly. Your humble son believes we should cast a long line to catch a big fish. Let the Mongols grow complacent. Only then can we sweep them all away in one net, eliminating future troubles. Father nodded. This matter is entrusted to you. Leaving the hall of diligent governance, I returned to the training grounds. Duan Jixiao was playing polo with the young nobles. I admired his carefree spirit. Yet my grandfather, the former emperor, had taught me that a ruler must learn to make choices. Father had said a ruler must prioritize the people before himself. I lingered outside the grounds for a long while. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I returned to the prince's residence. By the next day, news spread throughout Chang'an. Princess Xingyang had fallen for Shinzijie, the most talented man in the capital. The moment I first saw Shinzijie, I knew he was no ordinary man. He didn't love me. His heart had always belonged to Luo Luo, the woman in those letters. He prided himself on his aloofness, and I was happy to play along. Everyone in Chanlan believed I loved him deeply. Thus Shinzijie never guarded against me. Over the years, I gathered ample evidence against him. Believing this charade could continue indefinitely, little did I expect Li Nuanyuan to appear. From the moment I saw Li Nuanyuan, I knew this woman was merely a stand-in for the Luo Luo of those letters. She was carefree, Chanlan's liveliest young girl, while the Luo Luo in those letters roamed the grasslands like a fiery steed that loved to run. I watched Shinzijie, cherishing her, loving her, even going so far as to slander myself. Yet I recalled how, in the desolate wilderness, he would write letter after letter, pouring out his longing and affection for Luo Luo. It all seemed laughable to me, yet countless times, I recalled the youth on the training grounds in our youth. Had once joked about marrying me, and Wed shared cups of osmanthus wine, drinking deeply side by side on the palace eaves. Until this charade could no longer be sustained, I brought Shinzijie to the palace to seek a divorce, hoping to force the Mongols into the open sooner. But I encountered Duan Jixiao. He remained unchanged, stepping before me to block the way. Your Highness, it seems I placed my trust in the wrong person. In truth, my heart whispered back, because the one I ever wanted to entrust myself to was always you. Extra Chapter 2. Duan Juxiao's Extra Chapter from Childhood. I was Chanlan's most mischievous young master. Everyone said the Duan family produced nothing but loyal heroes. Yet I alone was hopelessly incorrigible, spending my days clowning around, chatting with cats and teasing dogs throughout the city. What did they know? With Chanlan now peaceful and the frontiers secure, why not live freely and boldly? Truthfully, I'd simply fallen under Princess Shenjiang's spell. Everyone in the palace knew she wasn't like other royal ladies, though she carried herself with ladylike grace. She never neglected her studies or martial arts training. The master who taught Xinyang martial arts was also my teacher. I spent my days chewing on a blade of grass, trailing after my master into the palace, relying on my status as the youngest legitimate son of the Duke of the State. I managed to annoy everyone wherever I went. Truth be told, I was simply captivated by that girl who wielded swords and spears. Unlike other noble ladies, her head wasn't adorned with jewels and ornaments. A single crimson ribbon held her dark hair high, and when the breeze stirred it, a grain of sand from somewhere seemed to enter my eye. I rubbed it, and from that moment on, my vision was filled only with her. I'd often carry her up to the highest pavilion at the southern edge of the palace walls, secretly bringing her 2 flasks of mother's freshly brewed osmanthus wine. We'd drink and talk freely, sharing everything. Gazing into her eyes, I suddenly realized she was the one who haunted my dreams in Chang'an. One moonlit night, she gazed into my eyes. Jiao Shao, do you know? What I desire is the empire, that dragon throne, the supreme authority. I couldn't fathom why a woman would harbor such ambitions. Drunk, she clung to my arm and murmured softly, "What of it if I am a woman? Why can't the empire and the moon rest in my hands?" I escorted her back to her chambers, then slipped out beyond the palace gates. Gazing up at the imperial city, I resolved. If she desires this realm, I shall one day place it in her hands. Since she refuses to be a pampered princess, I will personally elevate her to the throne she craves. From that day on, Duan Zhilong underwent a sudden transformation. He began training relentlessly in the barracks, driven by one purpose: to be ready when she needed him. Yet within mere months, rumors swept Chang'an. Princess Xingyang had fallen for Shinzijie, the city's most brilliant scholar. I refused to believe it. She was the sun in the heavens. How could she love a sour, pedantic bookworm, sweating buckets in the barracks? I heard she and that man had been betrothed by His Majesty. I walked along the palace walls for ages, spotting her silhouette yet daring not to approach. His Majesty summoned me urgently. The Duan family must return to the frontier. Without hesitation, I accepted. To love someone, I believed, meant being able to give her what she desired when she needed it. 10 years passed. Hearing she and her prince consort were estranged, I deliberately took my second brother's place to return to the capital for duty. Inside the palace, she remained unchanged. As she passed by me, I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Princess, it seems you've entrusted yourself to the wrong man. But there was one more thing I never said aloud. This time, I will be with you. Post-wedding side story 1. After ascending as empress, father still held on to state affairs. As the first female ruler in 1,000 years, Duan Zhixiao felt somewhat uneasy residing in the Eastern Palace. After all, it had always been occupied by the crown prince and his consort. Now that he was here, he wasn't sure how to address himself. Bold palace attendants, knowing his gentle nature, would occasionally tease him. General Duan, perhaps you could be called the Empress Crown Prince Consort. Whenever such jokes surfaced, had come to me with a bright red face, a far cry from his usual military demeanor. Had always take my hand. You haven't even ascended the throne yet, and they're already joking that I'm your crown prince consort. But I'm still a man. How can anyone call me that? If you become empress someday, then I pinned him against the door, cupping his chin with my hand. Though he towered over me, he instinctively crouched to meet my height. Duan Zhou, I murmured. Someone once promised that whatever I desired, they would place it in my hands. Now, a few playful remarks have you so flustered. I feigned a pout, a tactic he always found irresistible. He could only pull me into his embrace, speaking with utmost care. I was merely venting. Let them call me whatever they wish from now on, as long as I'm with you. That's all that matters. When father and mother prepared to leave the palace to tour the realm, formally abdicating the throne to me, it was a day of brilliant sunshine. Clad in the imperial yellow dragon robe, I ascended step by step to the throne hall I'd longed for. He stood guard outside the hall in his armor. As the Minister of Rites led the court in shouting "Long live the Emperor," he whispered softly in my ear, "Xingyang, I will always protect you, long after becoming empress." News arrived from the secluded residence of Shinzijie and Linuanyuan. He wished to see me, perhaps cut off from the world, with no one to relay messages. He had not known I had ascended the throne. Seeing my silence, the messenger added, "Shinzijie is gravely ill. Li Nuanu beats and berates him daily. Their child, raised by her mother, has grown to spout nothing but nonsense. He sent word perhaps he won't survive these final days." I nodded, changed into plain clothes, and rode with Zhixiao to the suburban residence. Though restrained by guards, Li Nuanu still hurled curses at me until a soldier slapped her across the face. "How dare you speak to His Majesty thus?" Only then did she cling to her child in terror. I strode straight into the room. Shinzijie seemed aged beyond his years, no longer the handsome young gentleman everyone in Chang'an once praised. He stared at me. You are the emperor now. I underestimated you back then." I remained silent. He continued, "My sins are grave. I wish to return to Mongolia. I beg your permission. After my death, Have my ashes brought back to Mongolia. Not a shred of pity stirred within me. I replied, if you know your sins are grave, why make me witness this pitiful spectacle? They'll have your ashes buried in the place farthest from Mongolia. Let you gaze longingly at your homeland every day. Isn't that fitting? He smiled faintly, then glanced at Duan Jiushao behind me, clearing his throat twice. So you're with him after all. I didn't want to listen to his nonsense and pulled Duan Jiushao toward the exit. Qin Zijie spoke again from behind us. Qing Yang, whether you believe it or not, I never meant to hurt you. I replied coldly. No, you could never hurt me. Qin Zijie ultimately died that winter. Even in his final moments, he had someone deliver a letter to me. Without opening it, I tossed it into the flames. Duan Jiushao held me close. Aren't you going to open it? I shrugged. What's there to see? The most terrifying thing in this world is the repentance of the departed, no matter how grave their sins. People say the dead are above reproaches if that somehow excuses everything. Petty. I've never been able to do that. The eunuch brought a flask of warm osmanthus wine. He led me to the high pavilion south of the palace walls. Once, I was the proud princess within these walls, and he was the carefree ninth young master of the Duan family. Now, I am the emperor